Hi, everyone, and welcome to our next lesson for Imperfect Journal. We're going to do some watercolor illustration today, and I'm really excited because it's really one of my favorite things to do. That is how I created these 3 pages, and I would like to share this with you. So you don't need many supplies right now. You're just going to want some watercolor paper. And I have 3 sheets here of 90-pound hot press watercolor paper. And you can also pull out any old bits or scraps of paper that you have already painted on. If there's something that you have lying around that maybe you already did some watercolor or just some pen drawing on, you can pull that out and that will make great fodder also. I am using the 90-pound hot press here just because I want to do my drawing and painting, and then I want to mount it into my journal. So if you already have your journal semi-assembled, then you may want to sort of go through and decide where you may want to place some of your pages that you're working on. So like here, I did this 3-page spread, and so maybe I want to add something here over the top. So, you can sort of plan it out a little bit if you want to. If not, it's fun just to go in and sort of choose some of the quotes maybe, or some of the things that speak to you from our book if you have that. If not, if there's some quotes that you really adore, maybe you want to illustrate them. So I just want to take a peek. I have some pages already marked here, and this is one specifically that I really wanted to do. It says, "Your heart is far wiser than your head. It already knows the answer." So I want to maybe illustrate that. And so what you're going to want to have handy, excuse me really quick, I just want to mark that page. What you're going to want to have handy is some watercolors. So I already have, a basic little palette already squeezed out into this flower palette. Or I also have my classic set of core watercolors here. If I wanted some extra colors, of course, you can just pick whatever you like and have those squeezed into your palette. So I was thinking I may do some illustration over the top of this, but for now I'm just going to set this aside and pull out one of my pieces of paper. Now for a pen, what you're going to want is something permanent and waterproof. I often use my Micron pens, or some Pigma pens will work, or your what are those other ones called? Oh gosh, your Pitt pens. Okay, so anything like that will work. Sometimes you may have to heat set it just to make sure it does not smear. I will let you know I have had my Microns and my Pitt pens smear just a little bit. Honestly, a couple of these pages that I did, they might have run just a little bit here and there, but you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't show. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to encourage you to just dig right in. Just go ahead and put your pen to the paper and write. You know the expression, dance like no one's watching? Well, you write and do your penmanship like no one is watching. Okay. So it does not have to be perfect. In fact, we're striving for imperfection here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to say, your heart and I'm completely being playful. I don't care if my spacing is nice or, like I said, perfect, or if it even fits. I'm just going to go with the flow, okay? Your heart is far wiser than your head. It already knows the answer. Okay, so now I can go around and I can illustrate this. It is a little bit off center. If that bothers you, you can obviously trim one side down. I'm going to go ahead and opt to sort of turn this into a little bit of an illustration here. And that's just, it's very a spontaneous thing because I did not know I was going to do that. I only did it because I needed something over here on the side. So we'll go ahead and just keep playing and keep going with it. I really encourage you to try this. If you don't like the way it turns out, and I will say, see it through, okay? See it through all the way to the end. If you don't like it when you're done, you don't have to put it in your journal, but it is amazing practice to do so, okay? All right, so there you have it. That is my illustration. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to heat set it just for a quick second, okay? Just so that I can feel more comfortable to go in and start painting on it. So all right, and of course I do have some jars of fresh clean water here. Pull out my paints and I'm just going to sort of, again, intuitively choose colors that I like, that call to me, and also of course that will sort of fit in with my journal. So if I have an idea of where I would like for this to go, then maybe I'll want to plan my colors a little bit. If not, I feel like it's sort of all just such mix and match that I can make it work anywhere that I want. But if you have a little bit more of a theme going on or something like that, then you may want to do that. The other thing and that I may want to do is trim this down just a little bit. I don't know. I'm okay with it for now. I'll go ahead and paint and then I'll figure that out after. So go in with some fresh clean water. Just trying to kind of decide where I want to start painting. I think I'm just going to fill in a little bit. And again, I want to paint pretty loosely. I'm not worrying about painting tight, or even though it is sort of an illustration, it can be loose and washy. And even go out of the lines just a little bit. Like I said, I just want it to be fun and relaxing and sort of loose. Remember that with watercolors, they are a wonderful and loose medium where you can take another color and let it sort of run in the paint, in the water, and do its own little organic, flowy thing. I hope you can see that pretty well. And I'm just going to kind of keep going along like that. I think I want to do maybe some blues and purples instead for the word head here, or blues and greens maybe. If I add a little bit of green, I think that'll make it a nice kind of a tealy color. All right, so that's kind of fun. Great little start there. And now I'm just going to go in and I'm going to just, again, really loosely and quickly sort of put down a little bit of wash on this vine. One thing I feel like about this whole imperfect journal, the concept and the idea behind it is that it really sort of helps us to give up the idea that our pages have to be like structured really in any way, that you can't mix and match not only mediums but different sorts of imagery, and just have fun with each individual page, and then sort of do your assembling after. It doesn't have to necessarily have like a rhyme or reason. It can just be for the love of creating and to sort of make your heart happy. At least that's my goal when I journal and things like that. All right, I'm going to pull out another color. I really love, let's see if I can find it. Let's see here. I think I'm going to need to order some more. This is a Holbein lavender color, and I really, really enjoy this color. For some reason, I thought I had a bigger tube of it, but I have enough left to get me through. So I just squeezed out a little bit here onto this dish, and I am going to use it for part of my background. And I'm going to really get my brush loaded with water, and I'm going to really get a little puddle of water going here in this lavender, and then I'm going to pull back because it's a fairly opaque kind of color if you use it kind of heavy-handed. So I just want a light wash of it here on the top. If I end up mixing a little bit with some of the other colors, that's perfectly okay with me, sort of like that. And again, I'm not painting precise. I'm really just sort of moving around things, pushing that water around my page, and getting very little of the actual lavender paint on here. Okay, I just wanted sort of a hint of it. And I really, like I said, I don't want a ton of paint or color really in the background. I want those words to sort of stand out, so I'm just putting a little light wash. And then finally, I'm going to give the little flowers a little center. Now, for something else sort of fun, if you let this dry a little bit longer, which I will heat set it just for a quick second, okay? Now, normally I don't like to heat set or dry my watercolors very much, but you can see just that little bit of air sort of helped it flatten out a bit. And now I'd like to take maybe some of this teal color, just very light and again sort of washy, a lot of water. Well, not a lot of water, but compared to the paint ratio I have. And I'm going to go ahead and go into some of my insides of my letters, the ones that are closed off, and I'm just going to drop a little color in there, and then I'm going to switch colors and maybe do a pink or an orange or yellow. I don't know, maybe a little yellow here, and do the same thing, and that just it just makes it a little more whimsical, adds a little bit more color. And you just sort of want to space it out and you know, do little drops of different colors and different letters. And I'm working really, really washy. I don't want, you know, the color to be super overpowering. I just want like a little hint of color. And voila, I think it looks so very sweet. It's not very saturated. If you want more saturation and, you know, it to be a little bit deeper, then of course you could easily layer over some more color. And just give yourself a little bit more hue and value. Right, and I think that's super sweet and will make a really nice little addition, you know, to my journal, a really nice page, okay? So now I'm going to do one more, and we're going to do a little bit of florals, okay? I wanted to just do something, it doesn't have to be, you can see here, I wanted to show you these up close again. I basically did this one the exact same way and just really quickly drew myself some sort of vines and again, worked very loose and washy to fill those in, okay? So I wanted to show you sort of how I did my florals. And it's going to be a little bit smaller of a scale. I'm choosing a smaller piece of paper here. And this one does have a watermark in it, so you are going to see a little bit of that. And this has the item number from the paper, so I'm going to erase that. All right, and then I'm going to go in and just randomly draw some flowers out of my imagination. Okay, these are not, I mean, if you want to draw some flowers from that are more life, you know, real life like, then of course look at some pictures of flowers and you can do that. But I'm just going to draw some from my imagination. And you can see I am overlapping some of the lines. I want it to look, again, very loose and just whimsical. But of course there's lots and lots of ways that you can approach this. So if you'd like something that looks a little more like a real flower, then again, I encourage you to definitely look at some photos or some real flowers, whatever you got. So that looks a little bit like a fern leaf, I guess. And now I'm just going to do some random right, so now let's see here. All right, I think that's good. All right, so it's pretty dense in there, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with my background this time, and I'm going to just throw in some color randomly, sort of wherever I sort of see fit, okay? So I'd like to start with some darks back here. Okay, and I'm controlling the I'm controlling my manipulations with the amount of water that's on my brush. Okay, so if I want to really make it move, I get my brush a little more watery and push it around, and then when I want to pull color back, I will sort of dry it out a little bit, make what I call a thirsty brush, and that can pull some of the color and some of the paint that I lay down. I can pull it back if my brush is pretty, or at least semi-dry. Again, working loosely, not being super, super careful about, I don't want to go all over the lines, but I don't care a lot if I overlap the lines a little bit. And one thing I'm going to do right now, I'm laying down, so here I laid down some purple and blue, some purple and blue. I'm skipping over this because this is going to be a leaf. So now I'm putting down just a little bit of washy blue. It's more water than anything, but it has a blue tint to it. And I'm going to spread that around, okay, because I want to gradiate. I want to, now I don't want purple and blue. I maybe want a little magenta, okay? And the magenta is going to mix nicely with the blue. So as long as I lay down a color or a wash of color that will work with the next color I choose, then I can overlap like that. So again, I have the purple mixed with the blue mixed with the purple. I had a little bit of blue watery wash put down, and I mixed it with magenta, and now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to mix it with some blue again, because I want it to sort of fade out to that magenta color. Adding a little bit of purple right here, okay? And that can bleed into that blue again, and the blue in turn will bleed into the magenta. And then I'll make a really nice gradient, and then I'm going to end up on the side of the page over here with magenta. And that's, if you can see, my whole background is all sort of mixed and gradient. And of course I'm not doing the same exact one, but I want to sort of emulate that a little bit. Okay, so on the other side, I'm going to go back in with magenta again. It doesn't have to match up, because it's actually not going to end up matching up, because I'm going to be going into other colors as well. Maybe the slightest amount of blue or purpley blue. But now I'm going to go sort of into some teal. So that's how you can sort of just work around your page, just deciding what colors that you might like to add and let mix in with each other. Again, I'm kind of keeping in mind I'm not going to use any greens because I want my greenery in the leaves and the palm frond or the fern leaves and things like that. I want those to really stand out. So if I use a lot of green, then it won't stand out too much. Maybe go into a little bit of yellow. Although again, be careful because when you mix, then especially if you're going to mix yellow and like the teal, that will give you a shade of green. You just need to know what colors will play nicely together. So, you know, you maybe kind of keep your cools and your warms together. And now I'm going back to blue, back up to the color. That'll create a little bit of unity. And again, I sort of like to get deeper on my edges. It gives just a really nice bit of cohesiveness if you sort of deepen your edges and put some deeper value on the edge of your piece. It will draw your eye in. And so that is how I sort of treat my background. So I'm just going to finish painting this out, and then we'll work on the actual florals. Of course, if you want to take time and paint a little more precisely, that is completely up to you. You know, a lot of people like to paint tighter. I find it more enjoyable to just sort of let go and see what the paint, you know, will do, and the way it likes to react together. I like the little different color gradients and the nice color nuances that happen when you let them sort of bleed together. And so that's why I'm just not being super careful. But of course, you know, your own personal style and your own intuitive process will sort of take over, and you will create your own imperfect piece. And don't think you can't go back over areas and do some nice layering once you sort of get everything, the background, you know, sort of painted in. If you want to go back through and add more layers, you can definitely do that. Again, I'm pulling in a little bit of magenta over here just for that nice unity that it creates and that balance. All right, so now I have the background mostly done. And again, I probably will, when it's all dry, remember watercolor dries lighter. So once all is said and done, I probably will go back in and deepen some of the areas again. But for now, I'd like to, as long as some of my areas are dry enough, I can go back in now and start to sort of finesse and paint in my flowers. And I'm just laying down a little bit of wash and dropping in a little bit of this transparent pyrrole orange paint, which I love. And then I want to deepen that down towards the center of the flower. So I'll have less water and more pigment on, or more paint on my brush. And then I'd like to go in and do the center of my flower. And now I'll let that dry just a little bit because I don't want it to start getting muddy. So I'm going to take some green. I have this nice sort of dark olive green, and I'm going to hit some of my little stems and leaves. Again, just washy, 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 and then I can always go back in and finesse it with more paint, more deeper values if I want to. But for now, I'm just laying down the washes. All right, now I definitely want to dip into some of this beautiful sort of opera pink color, one of my favorite colors. And I am going to use it here. Flower. I didn't want to turn that all orange though, so I need to blot that and just go back in with a little more solid pink. And I might just take that same pink and sort of line this flower just a little bit. Again, like I said, I'm working very, very loose. If it sort of overlaps or if I paint out of the lines, I am perfectly okay with that. And I'm just using this opera pink because I think it just brightens up the whole piece. All right, and I want to mix up a little bit of my teal color here. I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to mix up some teal and some of my, I think this is Hansa Yellow Light. I can't remember. Let me see what it is. Oh no, Cad Yellow Primrose. Mixed together with this teal, it makes a really sort of limey type of bright green. And I just want a little bit of a contrasting green. So that my whole thing isn't just one color green. Oh, and so now I'm just deciding what other colors I want to add. I think I'm just going to try a little bit of this Cad Yellow Primrose by itself. do a little blotting off. Maybe drop in some orange or maybe some of that opera rose into there. It's going to make a nice sort of orange, and I just want to give a little bit of contrast at the bottom of this flower. Maybe I'll drop in just a few little dots with some orange. Overworking that a little bit. I don't know. I just wanted a few little dots of color there. That's kind of nice. And I'll do the same thing over here. And I think I'm going to use some teal for these little guys. Add a few little details, just some little texture. All right, and once again, I'm going to go in and just deepen just a little bit some of my background areas. I just want to pump that up just a little bit. And voila, that's pretty much it. I mean, I of course do like to go in after, maybe add a little bit of splatter or add a few other dots or darker values just for some, again, some texture. You could do it with the pen. I am going to hit this with a blow dryer, and then I'll come back and show you how I finish it off. I just put some water on the back just so that it would flatten out a bit more. To make it a little bit easier to work on. And then once it's dry enough, you can go in, you can add some splatters. You could use a splatter stamp if you wanted to, and that's usually really easy. Or you can go in again with just some really darker value, so not much water on your brush at all, just enough to moisten it and bring that nice round brush up to a point, and then go in and just give some dots here and there. Like so, and you just want to be kind of random. I'm going to add a little bit of red, I think, just for fun to this flower some more. Just, again, deeper value. Make it look a little more loose and washy. Keeping in mind that I often will be looking in the monitor, or I'll even take a photograph as I'm working to see if I like not only the composition, but also sort of, you know, the depth, the values, and things like that. Okay. I'm feeling like it needs more darkness, so that's what I'm doing, just adding more values. layering over a different shade of yellow and pumping all that up, brightening it up just a bit. And I'm going to get some more magenta on my brush. I'm going to sort of get it washy, watery, and I am going to add a couple little splatters. And I think that just finishes it off pretty nicely. And of course, as it dries, I can continue to sort of watch it and see if I need to pump up any other areas. But I will be honest, in general, I'm pretty happy with this. And I think it will look great in my journal. I can't wait to see what you create, and I can't wait to see your watercolor illustrations come to life. So there you have it, my friends. One with words and one with florals. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time when we do some what I like to call watercolor pouring. Have a great day and stay imperfect.